According to tradition, the Virgin Mary appeared to Juan Diego, a man of Aztec descent who had converted to Christianity, on December 9th, 1531. She asked Juan Diego to build a shrine on the spot where she had appeared, Tepeyac Hill, now in the suburb of Mexico City. The local bishop, an important church official, demanded that Juan Diego provide a sign that would prove that the Virgin Mary had really appeared to him before he would agree to build a church on that site. The Virgin Mary then appeared to Juan Diego again on December 12th and showed him where to pick roses, even though it was winter, to take to the bishop as proof that she had really appeared. Juan Diego collected the roses in his tilma, or cloak, and went before the bishop, then opened his cloak to show him the roses. Dozens of roses fell to the floor, and his cloak had a beautiful picture of the Virgin Mary inside. The bishop was stunned by the miracle and ordered that a church be built in her honor on Tepeyac Hill. It is important to note the way Our Lady appeared on Juan Diego's cloak, which was very significant to the Aztec Indians. God had dressed her in a way that they would understand who she was. First, she was dressed in royal clothes that showed she was a very important person, perhaps a queen. Second, she had the symbol of the cross at her neck, which was the same symbol the Spaniards had on their ships and on the churches that they built. Third, she had a sash tied around her waist, which meant that she was with child, for that was the way Aztec women dressed when they were pregnant. Last, on her beautiful dress were all sorts of designs and flowers, but there was one flower on her dress that made this very significant. It had only 4 petals. To the Aztecs, the 4-petaled flower was a symbol of the true God, the God above all gods. This flower was located on her abdomen, right over the place where Jesus was growing inside her. The Aztecs immediately understood that this was the mother of the true God. Since that time, many people in Mexico and around the world have worshiped the Virgin of Guadalupe, as she has become to be called, and her popularity has grown throughout the centuries. Juan Diego's cloak is still intact after 470 years. The colors have not faded, and the cloth has not deteriorated. It has been on display in Mexico at the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe for all this time.
Okay, now the test. Who was Juan Diego? Raise your hand. Okay. Who was he? Say an Aztec Indian. Okay, he said an Aztec Indian, quietly. What did our Blessed Mother ask him to do? Okay, but why did she want him to take the flowers? What did she ask him to do first? Okay, to show proof that he saw her. That's true, but she asked him to do something. Build a church. She wanted him to build a church. But see, he was a poor Aztec Indian, and he went to see the bishop. Do you think the bishop would have believed him? No. He said, like, who are you to tell me really our Blessed Mother going to appear to you? So he didn't believe him. And he went back the second time and told, Mary, well, I went to the bishop, but he didn't believe me. Now, let's say if you were Juan Diego and our Blessed Mother appeared to you and gave you the same message, would you go tell the bishop or tell anyone else? Okay, This lady said she would. Okay? It's very, frightening because, nobody's going to believe you, especially the bishop, and you want you to build a church. Sure, that's a lot of money. So he goes back to Our Lady, and she tells them, that's why the second time she tells them, I'm going to give you a sign. It was in the middle of the winter, about this time, so Mexico was cold. That's not a time when roses grow. But she said, go, you're going to find these roses, and then take him to the bishop, and he'll believe you. So one, as you see in his tilma, like you guys build your tilmas, but it was much longer. So he pulled it, and so he started picking the roses and putting it in his tilma like this, and then he covered them and went to see the bishop. And when he let it go, the roses fell, but then the image of Our Lady was on his tilma. So it was really two miracles. First, finding the roses, then the image of Our Lady on the tilma. But actually, there was a third miracle that happened. See, the third time, Juan Diego, he was living with his uncle who was very sick. And so he got very sick that they told him, go get the priest to come and give him the last rites. So he didn't have time to go by the same place, same way, because he didn't want to stop and talk to Our Lady because he was in a hurry to go get a priest. But then Our Lady went around and stopped him on the way he was going and said, Juan, where are you going? Why are you in a hurry? He told her, my lady, I'm sorry, but my uncle is sick and I need to go get a priest. And she told him, Juan, don't you trust me that I can take care of your uncle? And that's what she told him, go pick the roses and go see the bishop again. And during that time, his uncle was healed. So why do you think Mary asked Juan Diego to build her a church? That's a question even for the adults. Why did Mary want a church? It's not like she was homeless. Okay, at that time, see, that happened about 10 years after the Spanish conquered the Aztec Indians. But the Aztec Indians, obviously, they were not excited about their religion because these are the people who conquered them, who took over their lands. So not many of them were becoming Christians. Now, Juan Diego was a Christian, but he was one of the few people who became Christian. But also part of what the Aztec Indians were doing, they had human sacrifices. And Mary wanted them to believe in her faith, to believe in Jesus, her son. So she wanted to help them, to encourage them to have faith, to believe that it's not the religion of these, Spaniards who are coming here, that's the true religion of God. And that's why Mary, if you notice, she appeared as an Indian girl, darker skin, dressed like Dean said in their clothes, to show them that she's not, European, God. She's their God. And you mentioned, what did Dean say about why she's wearing the black sash here? That she's pregnant, right? Because that's before Christmas when Jesus was born. The other thing you see is she's standing on the moon. The Aztecs worship the god moon, so she's showing that she's stronger than the god moon. But another thing, what's these things behind you? What do they remind you of? The sun, the god sun. Those are the two greatest gods of the Aztecs. And Mary is blocking the sun, again showing that the true God is greater than the god sun and the god moon. But the reason she wanted them to build a church, what takes place in a church? What happens in a church? Just like now, what's happening now? People come to pray, right? It's a place for people to gather to pray. Because the Aztec Indians, all cultures had temples where people gathered to pray. That's true, we can pray anywhere, and we should be, but we can't gather as a family to pray together. We need a big place. So she wanted them to have their place where they can come and worship and pray together. What else happens in a church? Okay, what happens at Mass? The Eucharist. At church, we're reminded that Jesus is with us. In the first reading, the prophet Zephaniah twice told the people, Your Lord, your God is with you, in your midst. Same thing, John the Baptist, he tells the people, the Lord is in your midst. And when we come here and we celebrate the Eucharist, we're reminded that God is not somewhere over there that you're too far away, but he's here in our midst. He's here every day for us to turn to him, to pray, to ask him to help us, and also to listen to him. In the church, we hear the word of God, right? The Indians at that time, the Aztecs, most people, even the Europeans, could not read. There was no books for them to read. So they needed a place to hear the good news of Jesus, the good news of the God who loves them and cares for them. And that's why Mary wanted them to have a church. It wasn't for her, but for the people. Just like John the Baptist, when they asked him, what should we do? He said, share what you have with others. If you have 2 coats and somebody doesn't have one, give him one. If you have too much food and somebody is hungry, give him some of your food. But the greatest gift that we can share with others is the gift of our faith. And the way we share it with others is by how we practice it. When we are kind, when we are compassionate, when we forgive others, when we care about others, when we're generous, that makes people stop and wonder, why is this person like this? And then we can tell them about Jesus. And that's what Mary did. By giving him the church, they wanted him to receive the greatest gift.